Hey everyone, welcome to episode number 2 of Zach UX, and a couple things I want to talk about before I dive into today's content. So I got some amazing feedback for my first video, a lot of love, a lot of support, super amazing, super motivating, and super inspiring. I was expecting when I launched this first video maybe to get a couple likes, couple watches, and I got a lot more than that. I mean, nothing that's gonna like be crazy, but just enough to kind of say, hey, maybe I should keep doing this. So I really appreciate the support. It does inspire and motivate me. And I'm also excited to hear that, just doing a first video after kind of being, video dark for so many years has inspired a few other people in the communities I roll in to make their own video, make their own content. So really excited about that. And this kind of inspires me to keep going. So on that note, on to episode 2 officially, and this is going to be how I even got into UX design to begin with. This is going to be titled The Accidental UX Designer, and I say that because I had no intention to move into UX design, UI design, digital products when I first started my creative career. In fact, when I first started wanting to pursue something creative, it wasn't design at all. I was really into journalism. I was really into music. I was a drummer for a few bands, and I really loved doing that. And I enjoyed writing both as a journalist and as a creative writer, and that's really how I got started. And even before that, when I was in high school and middle school, going back, I was much more into basketball. I loved playing basketball. I loved sports. I was just not a typical artsy kid. So it's been a strange journey, and I did become a UX designer somewhat on accident. So I did finally get that passion to follow graphic design and go to school for that. And I finished graphic design, and I was absolutely convinced that I was going to be a print designer, illustrator, screen printer. I love doing that. I did take web design at the school I attended. Shout out to Cal State Channel Islands. That's where I went to school. So I did go to, took a couple web design classes there, and I didn't hate it. I did enjoy it. Something I was interested in, but I was like, this is really awesome, but I love screen printing. I love illustration. And those were the things that I was initially into, when I was finishing school. So I got out of school looking for jobs just like any emerging designer post-grad, and my first opportunity was with an agency where I grew up, in Santa Clarita called Active Color, and it was a web design agency. So shout out to Dami, and he gave me my first shot to work at an agency, and started doing web digital work, and it's not what I was anticipating, right, coming out of school. And I guess one of the first lessons that I could kind of share with people watching this is, don't have a pre-prescribed expectation for how you're going to, start your career, where you're going to end up, being, or where you end up going with your career. I think there's a sweet spot between pursuing your passion and kind of letting that passion maybe guide you towards unexpected roads or places, because again, web design was an accident. UX design was an accident for me. So I did my web design with Active Color, got things started, and then, long story short, I ended up with Toy. I got hired on from Active Color to Toy, and the funny story is that I worked with Toy as an intern, as a freelance designer years ago, and was been not doing a lot of web work, doing kind of like some illustrations, some fun stuff, a little bit of web stuff, photo editing, things of that nature. But come full circle, I'm again getting hired to work with Toy again as more of a digital website. And the fun thing is that I did end up becoming passionate about UX UI design and product design and product strategy, and it happened. So I say that because I think it's important, or essential, that you do still try to find something that you're passionate about when it comes to the creative career, the creative professions. Because to be honest, even though I did fall into UX design, I wouldn't be doing it right now if I wasn't passionate about it. I love working on digital products. I love working on sites. It's more on the UX side, so it's user flows, design sprints, strategy, things of that nature. And not as much UI anymore, but I still love doing UI as well. When I get the opportunity. So again, what I'm trying to get out of that is that I did find that passion, and if I didn't have that passion today, I would be looking. I would be looking to do something else. So, I say that because I do come across some, emerging creatives, recent grads that are trying to force a UX career or a product design career because they think they see that as the hot thing. And there is some truth to that. I mean, UX design is an exciting field. It's a growing field. Same thing with digital product design, web design. We're using screens. We're using technology. That's only going to increase instead of decrease. So I get the logic by thinking, oh, okay, I got to get into UX design because that's where the jobs are. Totally get that. That being said, if you're not finding that passion, you're not finding something within that field that's really lighting you up and exciting you, I don't think you're going to be able to advance the way you want to advance or get that job that you want to get. There is plenty of print jobs out there. Print is not dead. Illustration is not dead. I was getting some opportunities doing those kind of things a few years ago, and I say that because if you're not interested in UX design or product design, there are opportunities for you to do your thing. So point of all that is find your passion, do what you love to do, and you can provide value in whatever it is you're doing. There's value there. So don't try to over pigeonhole yourself into something you think you need to do. So again, I was saying earlier, for me, there's a sweet spot where I was really passionate about design. I wanted to pursue a design career, and then I let my career kind of naturally flow into UX, UI, product design. And the key thing there is that I did end up falling in love with doing that kind of work. So so this kind of leads me into the second half of what I want this video to be about, is some UX myths that kind of tie into my personal career as being the accidental UX designer. And there's two big myths that come up for me. Is that one, you don't have to be tech savvy to be a strong UX designer. Does that help? Of course it does. Knowing some basic coding, knowing some technical limitations and technical expertise and technical things, that's super important. That being said, it's not going to make or break your career. And I say that just from personal experience. I always make a joke, I'm probably one of the least tech savvy UX designers. And obviously that's not true. It's always a joke. I'm learning more and more about the technology every day. I've grown as a technologist, since I first started, getting into this field. But don't be intimidated by the technology. You don't have to learn how to code. You don't have to know everything about like internet technology. Really, to be a great UX designer, and this will be for another video, the overused word empathy is overused for a reason. Have great empathy, have great soft skills, be able to work with other people. Again, that's probably another video, but something to think about now. The second myth is that you don't even have to come from a graphic design background, right? So there's this assumption that because designer is attached to that title, UX designer, that you have to come from graphic design or visual design to get into that field, right? Does it help? Of course. If you have an understanding of visual design, especially if you're going to do a lot of UI work, that's necessary and it helps. But I've seen some amazing UX designers, UX researchers, UX strategists come from totally unrelated fields, and compared to the world of graphic design, they might have come from art history background, psychology, anthropology, psychology, and those are just some of the things that I've seen pop up on resumes from really talented UX designers. So if you don't have a visual background, don't feel that you're automatically just out of the running to be a quality UX designer. You just might approach it a little bit differently, and you actually might be more, you might provide value in a different way on a team, and you might provide some diversity for a good UX and product team, because you might be working with some other designers that are, more visual, and you're coming in as maybe the more research driven or strategic driven designer. So something to keep in mind there. So those are the two big myths. You don't have to be a visual designer. You don't have to be super tech savvy. I'm going to keep saying, of course, it doesn't hurt, but don't think of those as requirements. So that's episode 2. I really appreciate y'all watching and showing some support. It's super inspiring. Again, it motivates me to keep making these videos. Coming up this week for me, a little bit of what's going on. I will be running and facilitating a design sprint up in the San Francisco area. Really excited about that. So I'll be trying to post some content, get as much content as I can. It's for a pretty awesome client. I won't be able to obviously share too much of what's going on in the sprint room, so that being said, I will try to share what I can, and I think the next video will be about the design sprint and kind of what I learned and what I did this coming week, and kind of just go into how we do the design sprint in Toy and how I facilitate it as an individual, because the design sprint is a big part of my process now and Toy's process in general. So that's what's going on for me next week. As always, the best way to find me is through my Instagram, Zach R as in Richard Hill. I'm gonna start posting that in the video. I'll probably find somewhere to link out. And if you want to find what we're doing at Toy, start with toy.io. That's our website. So thank you again for watching. Please subscribe, please share. I appreciate the love and support, and stay tuned for the next episode.